Tonight, remembering a man of peace, a champion of equal rights.
Yes, you can kill the dream, but no, you absolutely cannot kill the dream.
As three candidates honor his dream and confront America's racial divide. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, our first look in 8 years at the Clintons' tax returns. The couple earned big money, a staggering $109 million since 2000.
$650,000.
Who would spend six figures on a license plate? Steve Hartman finds out in Assignment America.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. He was the most prominent leader of the civil rights movement, its most effective and affecting voice. Tonight, 40 years after that voice was silenced, Americans are reflecting on the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In Memphis, marchers retraced the path of Dr. King's final rally, recalling his message of peaceful protest. While tonight a vigil is being held at the Lorraine Motel, where an assassin gunned him down. A new CBS News New York Times poll shows overall race relations are improving, but there's still a divide. 8 years ago, 31% of blacks viewed race relations as good. Now it's 42%. Among whites, it's about the same it was 8 years ago, with 57% describing race relations as good. And as Dean Reynolds reports, race is just as big a political issue today as it was in 1968.
Good evening. Dr. Martin Luther King has been shot to death in Memphis, Tennessee.
When that news broke 4 decades ago, Barack Obama was 6 years old and living in Indonesia. Hillary Clinton was a college junior in Massachusetts, and John McCain was a prisoner of war in North Vietnam. Today, all three venerated King from very different perspectives. McCain, standing beneath the balcony in Memphis where King was murdered, felt the need to atone. A quarter century ago, he voted against making King's birthday a holiday, and today he called it a mistake. Contrition that was met with a mix of emotions.
I was wrong. I was wrong.
Hillary Clinton, the only one who had the chance to meet King, spoke of the progress he triggered and its impact.
This next generation will grow up taking for granted that a woman or an African American can be president of the United States of America.
As for Obama, a CBS News poll found that the man who could become the first African American president still faces racial hurdles. While 59% of blacks feel Obama's campaign has brought the races together, only 26% of whites do. And almost as many whites believe his campaign has pushed the races apart.
Dr. King once said that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. It bends towards justice. But here's the thing. It does not bend on its own.
Unlike Clinton and McCain, Obama was not in Memphis memorializing King today. He was in Indiana. He said he'd honored him at King's church earlier this year, but to some, the absence was a sign Obama wants to avoid the label of black candidate.
I think he has tiptoed throughout this campaign on the issue of race, because while he says the country's ready, I think he understands that much of the country may not yet be ready.
Whatever progress is yet to come, one thing is clear 40 years on. Barack Obama's candidacy is a living, breathing example of the kind of opportunity for which Martin Luther King fought so long and hard. Katie?
Dean Reynolds, thank you. And as America remembers Martin Luther King Jr. this day, his most enduring legacy may be those whose lives were transformed by his work. Bill Whitaker continues our coverage from Memphis.
They came to Memphis by the thousands to tread the path where Martin Luther King led his last march. King came to Memphis 40 years ago to support the strike of trash collectors, fed up with low pay and high humiliation.
And your supervisors, how did they treat you?
Treat me like I was a boy. Come here, boy. Once you get on that truck, boy.
76-year-old Elmore Nickelberry could only find a job collecting garbage after serving in the Korean War. He marched with King and wore the sign.
I was a man, but they thought I was a boy.
When his Memphis march descended into chaos and tear gas, the nonviolent King despaired, but soon rallied with his famous final speech, both poetic and prophetic.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
I was right here.
The following evening, the Reverend Billy Kiles came to the Lorraine Motel to take King to his house for dinner.
I got about 5 steps. Kapow! The shot rang out.
King's lieutenants pointed toward the gunfire.
I took a spread from one of the beds and covered him from his neck down. He never spoke a word.
The lesson of the last 40 years?
Yes, you can kill the dreamer, but no, you absolutely cannot kill the dream. The dream is still alive.
It lives in Natalie Catchings. She heard King's last speech. Now she's the first black principal at a formerly all-white school.
We are a salad bowl here, and if there is hope for Idlewild, there's hope for Memphis, and there's hope for America.
Still, things could be better.
I'm 60 years old. They'll call you boy right now.
Today.
Today.
But as Elmore Nickelberry considers all that has changed at the sanitation department where he still works and remembers the actions of 2 little children recently, one black, one white, studying King in school.
So you marked Martin Luther King? I said, I sure did. He said, could I have your autograph, please?
How'd that make you feel?
Nothing like that make you feel good.
For many of the people gathered here, this has been an emotional journey. Katie?
Bill Whitaker, that was a very moving and well done piece. Thanks so much for that, Bill. Turning once again to politics, late today, Hillary and Bill Clinton released their tax returns, and they're pretty eye-opening. Since 2000, the Clintons have earned more than $109 million. Jim Axelrod has more on where it came from.
While life after the White House has been wildly lucrative for the Clintons, that $109 million comes primarily, but not entirely, from 2 sources. His speeches, close to $52 million, and their books, close to $30 million for his 2, more than $10 million for her 2. The returns show more than $33 million paid in taxes and more than $10 million given to charity. Neither of those figures will give critics much ammunition. Hillary Clinton's hopes for the Democratic nomination rely heavily on the support of blue-collar workers, which may explain her comment to a union audience on Tuesday, knowing these figures would soon be released.
Ever since my husband got out of full-time public service, he's actually made money, much to both of our amazement. But I have to confess, as recipients of all of George Bush's tax breaks, I can tell you I didn't need them, I didn't want them, I didn't ask for them.
But she took them. As for Barack Obama, his tax returns show that he and his wife made just under $1 million in 2006, nearly $1.7 million the year before. Publishing a couple of books was good for the Obamas as well, but nothing like the Clintons. Katie?
Jim, I understand that there are not a lot of specifics in these tax returns, though.
That's right. For instance, not every group that paid Bill Clinton to speak is listed, but it does clear up the question of where Hillary Clinton got $5 million to loan her campaign back in February. Katie?
All right. Jim Axelrod at the White House tonight. Thank you, Jim. Now to the CBS News Money Watch. New numbers out today show the U.S. economy is still in big trouble. In March, unemployment rose 0.3 of a point to just over 5%, and employers slashed 80,000 jobs, the largest job loss in 5 years. As Anthony Mason reports, it's a tough time to be looking for work.
Ma'am, would you like the list?
Yes. The line at the monster job fair in Atlanta this week stretched out the door and through the hotel courtyard.
I didn't know the lines were going to be so long, but they're getting longer and longer as time goes on.
1,200 people showed up.
I really would like to get some employment as soon as possible.
Have you done much any business-to-business sales?
To meet with only a dozen businesses.
Based on what they have here, there's nothing here.
Job seekers across the country are meeting the same frustration. More than 230,000 jobs have now been lost this year, an average of 77,000 a month. The most worrying sign, last month, 42,000 temp positions were cut.
That's often a good leading indicator for what's going to happen to employment, because the first thing you do is lay off the temps, then you get rid of your permanent workers.
The job losses point to a recession, economists say, but maybe not a bad one.
You know, the job declines we've seen are serious, but they're still much less than what we've seen at this point in past economic downturns.
No consolation to Todrick Riggs.
I've been out of a job right now for about 3 months.
A tech operator, he had to bring his daughter to the job fair, but like many, left without any prospects. Anthony Mason, CBS News, New York.
And there is much more CBS News ahead. Up next, a government agency even the government doesn't want. So why did taxpayers spend $500 million on it? We'll follow the money. Among power brokers in Washington, Congressman John Murtha is one of the most powerful. In the past 4 years, he has steered more than $600 million in congressional earmarks to his Pennsylvania district. $2 billion since 1992. But what's good for Murtha and his home district isn't necessarily good for America's taxpayers. Cheryl Atkinson follows the money.
At a recent high-priced fundraiser at the Ritz, top defense lobbyists flocked to honor Congressman John Murtha, head of the House Committee on Military Spending. This year alone, Murtha gave out nearly $160 million in earmarks, grants of money without the normal public review.
Every private entity that received an earmark from Representative Murtha gave him a contribution, a campaign contribution.
Murtha helped set up the nonprofit Concurrent Technologies in his hometown of Johnstown, Pennsylvania. Among the things they do, help others get federal money. They should know they get $200 million in federal grants each year. Murtha alone doled out nearly $12 million in earmarks to Concurrent this year. Concurrent pays big bucks to PMA, a lobby firm started by a former Murtha committee staffer. Both PMA and Concurrent employees give generously to Murtha's campaigns. More mysterious is Murtha's $1 million earmark to the Center for Instrumented Critical Infrastructure.
We don't know if this center even exists.
Anti-earmark Congressman Jeff Flake had questions when he found no record of the center. Murtha wasn't there, so a colleague spoke for him.
Does that center currently exist?
At this time, I do not know. But if it does not exist, the monies could not go to it.
Congressman Murtha wouldn't tell us if the center exists or agree to an interview. His most notorious project is the government agency the government doesn't want, the National Drug Intelligence Center, also in Murtha's hometown. Every year, the White House tries to close it because they already have a drug intelligence center. But Murtha keeps the duplicate open using, you guessed it, earmarks, $500 million so far.
It's like you want to drive a stake through its heart, but you can't, because Congressman Murtha continues to put this in.
Murtha's power plays are no surprise to those who followed him since the bribery scandal known as Abscam. He wasn't charged, but the undercover tape shows him even back then bragging about his power.
I've got as much influence in that goddamn Congress with leadership and with the White House as anybody in Congress. There's no question about it. And I haven't been here a long time, but I know the right people and I know the system.
3 decades later, Murtha not only knows the system, he's mastered it. Cheryl Atkinson, CBS News, Washington.
Up next, a resurgent enemy in Iraq. U.S. forces move in against Shiite militias to stop the mortars and rockets raining down on Baghdad. Defense Secretary Robert Gates said today 7,000 additional U.S. troops will be needed in Afghanistan next year. That's on top of the 31,000 troops there right now. Gates said the additional forces would be deployed regardless of troop levels in Iraq. Meanwhile, Iraq's Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki backed down today, calling off his military operation against Shiite militias there. It is a huge political setback for Maliki. Since the operation began last week, Iraqi troops have taken major losses trying to take out the militias in Basra in southern Iraq. In a separate operation, U.S. forces are fighting a tough battle with Shiite militias in Baghdad's Sadr City. Our chief foreign correspondent Lara Logan reports from the front lines.
You're about to see an attack on Baghdad's heavily protected green zone. Shiite militiamen turn an open field into a rocket launch site. This gun camera video shows the U.S. response, firing a Hellfire missile from an Apache attack helicopter. And this is what the U.S. wants to stop. In the last week of March, 132 mortars and rockets came raining down on Baghdad. Most of the attacks launched from here, the militia stronghold of Sadr City, home to Iranian-backed militias like the Mahdi Army, loyal to anti-American cleric Muqtada al-Sadr. We went to Sadr City to see the soldiers who are going after those launch sites.
When you're on the rooftop, stay low. Everybody on the rooftop is probably going to be crawling around or running quickly from place to place.
Arriving at this makeshift patrol base, the soldiers run inside to avoid sniper fire. This is ground their enemy just lost, and they want it back. There aren't enough U.S. soldiers to hold this position alone. Iraqi reinforcements are needed.
We need help with patrols during the daytime.
The help this Iraqi major promises Captain Dave Utlau doesn't materialize. It doesn't take long for an attack to come.
Yeah, I got him.
U.S. soldiers on the roof stay low as their position comes under fire.
Taking shots on the roof coming from northwest.
They can hear Iraqi forces on the ground also being targeted.
We've been taking sustained incoming fire for some time now, and it's clear the militias don't want to give up this ground easily. The reason is that beyond this wall is one of their favorite spots for firing rockets at the green zone.
In the last few days since the U.S. moved into these critical areas, rocket attacks have dropped dramatically. But those gains were not easily won. Captain Logan Veet said the militias threw everything they had at his men.
Small arms fire, RPGs, IED attacks, snipers. I mean, the whole gambit of kinetic, other than like nuclear war.
That hasn't prevented the U.S. advance. But so far, they've stopped short of going deep into the heart of Sadr City, where the militias are dug in amongst millions of people. A bloody street fight there could cost thousands of innocent lives and throw the capital into chaos. Lara Logan, CBS News, Sadr City.
And when we come back, forget gold, silver, or platinum. These buyers are investing in tin. We'll tell you why next. And finally tonight, worried about the stock market? If you're looking for an investment that's really going places, Steve Hartman has just the ticket in tonight's Assignment America.
When Charles Murphy passed away late last year, he left behind his $350,000 home, his $15,000 car, and his most valuable possession of all, the license plate from said car.
There's every possibility that today this plate will sell for more than his home will sell.
Hey, can I touch it?
I wish you would.
Butch Emmert runs Emmert Auctions in Rehoboth, Delaware. Delaware, it seems, has a cult fascination with low-digit license plates. A fascination that translates into lots of dollars, but very little sense.
There is no better investment in the United States today.
Do you think this will outperform the stock market in the years to come?
I know it'll outperform the stock market.
It all started over a century ago when Delaware first started issuing plates, in numerical order. The wealthy people who got their cars first got the lower numbers, and a status symbol was born. Plate number 1 always went to the governor, 2 to the lieutenant governor, and 3 to the Secretary of State. The rest can be bought and sold on the open market. Even plates with 3 or 4 digits often sell for thousands of dollars.
It's more important in Delaware to have a low number than to drive a Rolls Royce.
To wit, the Fuscos, a family of commercial real estate brokers who've been collecting plates for 20 years.
It all started back when my grandfather purchased the number 9. That's when the hype began.
Grandpa paid nearly $200K for that tag, and that was back in '94. They now own 17 plates valued at over $3 million. The Fuscos will certainly be contenders here today. Also in the audience, investment groups and a wealthy publisher named Tim Ayers.
I think it would be a good investment. I really do.
Folks, it's a team sport. You can all play.
Bidding started at $250,000.
$250,000 is bidding now, $350.
Then climbed.
$575, he says, he jumps in.
And climbed.
Right? $660, he said.
And climbed.
Let's get done with this foolishness.
Yeah, $675, he said, yes.
Sold him your way, $675.
$675,000. The Fuscos made history. And somewhere out there, Charles Murphy, the man who held on to this plate for almost 40 years, had to be smiling.
If he's listening to us now, let's give him a big hand.
Steve Hartman, CBS News, Rehoboth, Delaware.
Wow. By the way, the reason Steve isn't here tonight? He had a baby. Well, his wife did. Andrea, Steve, and baby George are all doing well. Congratulations. And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching this week. Have a great weekend. Good night.